Okay, here's another video from a collection that I got. Interesting. What is this? Magic Secrets Revealed. Ooh, creative magic. You can do. Presents this guy. Yeah, card magic. Here's the cards. There's the Magic Man. It's a videotape. Creative Magic You Can Do offers a close look inside the wonderful world of magic, from Houdini to Copperfield, blah blah blah. Magic has touched the hearts of many people. It's a broadcast video. Features Joseph Fields, magical entertainer, teaching for 20 years. Fantastic video. Card tricks, 1999. At the bottom, made in the USA. Hey, made in the USA. Here we go.
Hello everybody, and welcome to Creative Magic You Can Do. My name is Joe Fields, and I'll be teaching you how to do magic with cards. So sit back, relax, stick around, we'll be right back. Let me show you a terrific trick using cards. Jocelyn, would you do me a favor, reach inside and pull one out? But not yet. I'm kidding, Gary. I want you to make sure they're all different. Are they? Say yes.
Yes.
Oh, and you have a free choice. Take anyone, please. Pick me, I'll be your friend. I'm fooling around. This is actually called the 16 card trick. Do you know why?
Why?
Well, using 16 cards. Yeah. What I'd like you to do is select one card while my back is turned. And I'd like you to pick it up and hold it towards the camera so everyone can see it. Now, don't move its position. You can leave it where it is. Just show it to the camera. Put it back down. And when you're done, let me know.
I'm done.
Okay. Now, Jasmine, I have one very simple question. Is your card in row 1, 2, 3, or 4?
Row 3.
It's in row number 3 here?
Mm-hmm.
Jasmine, I'm going to pick up the cards. And I'm going to put them down one more time. You see, people are always accusing me of using sleight of hand and removing cards from the deck without anybody seeing me do it. Now, to prove to you that I haven't done that, I place them back on the table, and tell me honestly, is your card still here?
Yeah.
It is. Is it in row 1, 2, 3, or 4?
Row 2.
It's in row number 2? Now, I'm going to change things around just a little bit. After I pick them up, I'm going to make 4 small piles. They look like this. And what I'd like you to do is to please point to any 2 of those piles. Go right ahead.
This one and this one.
Would you like to change your mind? Doesn't matter.
No.
Okay. Would you do me a favor, dear? Now, with the 2 remaining piles, would you please point to one of those? And we've got 1 pile left. Do me a favor and point to 2 of those cards. And 1 of the cards that are left now. My dear, what was the name of the card you selected?
King of Hearts.
Isn't that amazing? The 1 card remaining on the table is your card, the King of Hearts. Now, if you hang around, I'll show you, and I'll show you how that's done. Now for the explanation for the 16 card trick. Now this trick is actually two tricks in one. First, you have to find out the card that's selected, and then you kind of have to make it appear magically. Now I'll take each of these steps separately. The first is the location of the selected card. Now again, you're going to use 16 cards in all, and you're going to place them face up, 4 rows with 4 cards in each row. At this point, you're going to have a person select a card. Now, the words you use are important here. You don't really want to say, pick a card, because they'll just pick up a card and you're kind of stuck at that point. Normally what I do is I'd say, point to a card. In the case of Jaslyn a moment ago, I needed her to hold it up towards the camera, so I said pick a card and hold it up towards the camera and put it back in its original position. But normally when I perform this, I just ask the spectator to point. So Jaslyn, do me a favor, I'll turn my back, I'd like you to point to a card. Hold it up for the camera again so they can see it. All set? Yep. Okay. Now, the first thing I need to know is what row is her card in. Now, it's important to be specific here, so I point out the rows that I'm speaking about. Is it in row 1, 2, 3, or 4? You don't want any confusion. Some people might think you mean rows going this way, in a horizontal direction. Not the case. I mean rows that are going vertically, up and down. So, Jaslyn, is your card in row 1, 2, 3, or 4?
2.
Now, she said 2. To be certain she knows what I'm talking about, I point again. Row number 2?
Yes.
That way there'll be no confusion. Now, this tells me 2 things. It tells me Jaslyn's card is one of these 4. The 9 of clubs, 10 of clubs, 5 of hearts, and Jack of spades. It also tells me that it's not any one of the other cards. Now, because her card is in row number 2, I'm going to keep track of it. So I pick up the cards one at a time, the first 4 cards. Now, the cards that are in Jaslyn's row. I know that there'll be the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th card from the top. That's important. Now, I'm going to place the cards back down a second time, but I'm not going to put them down the same way. Instead of putting them back up and down the way they were originally, I'm now going to put them down from side to side. Now the first 4 cards are insignificant. It's the next cards that are important. The 5th, the 6th, the 7th, and the 8th. Now remember, her card is one of these 4. I don't know which one yet, but I'm about to find out. The rest of the cards can be put down in any order. Again, they're insignificant. Now, originally, this row was going up and down vertically. Now, I put it down horizontally from side to side. The rest is pretty much common sense. Once she tells me what row her card is in, 1, 2, 3, or 4, I'll know her card. If it's in row 1, it's the Jack. If it's in row 2, it's the 5. If it's in row 3, it's the 10. If it's in row 4, it's the 9. Jaslyn, which row is your card in?
Row 2.
Row 2. Row number 2?
Yep.
Once again, I point to be specific. I don't want any confusion. And now I know the card is the 5. Now, at this point, you could end the trick and say, yep, your card's the 5 of hearts. But that's not much of a climax. I want to build it up a little bit, so now I do the second part of the trick. Now that I know that her card is the 5, I begin to pick up the rest of the cards. Of course, I must keep track at what position the 5 is in the pile. So when I get to it, I begin to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Her card is 6 from the top. Now, I wouldn't count out loud. Count to yourself so the audience doesn't know you're counting the position of the card. Now I'm going to make 4 piles, keeping track of where card number 6 goes, because that is her card. Once again, it's in this position. For the finish of this trick, I'm going to utilize a ploy known as the magician's choice. You see, I have to make certain that this card, the one Jasmine chose, is the last one left on the table. And here's how I go about doing that. I ask the spectator to please point to 2 piles. Go ahead. Now, Jasmine pointed to 2 piles, one of which contained her card. I can't pick these up or the trick would be over. So the solution is to simply take the opposite 2 piles. Don't make a big deal about it, just do it. If she pointed to 2 piles that did not contain her card, I would have picked those up. But because one of the piles she pointed to contained her card, I took the opposite 2. So once again, Jasmine, please point to 2 piles. Okay? Now again, her card's in this pile. So without saying anything, I just pick up the other 2 piles and discard the cards. The next section is very silly. You see, no matter where she points, I'm picking up this pile. The reason being, her card's in this one. So if she points to this pile, I'll pick up this pile. If she points to this pile, I'll still pick up this pile. It doesn't matter. But the audience isn't aware of what you're doing, so it gives the impression that they're getting a free selection. Jasmine, please point to 1 pile. Are you serious? Would you like to change your mind? Ha-ha. Okay. So again, I pick up this pile, leaving me with 4 cards. Well, we just go back to the way we started. Please point to 2 cards. Now there's her card. I can't pick it up, so I just take the other 2. Once again, 2 cards, point to 1. Now I'm going to pick up that one no matter which one she points to, because that's her card. At this point, I ask her to name the card she selected. Do you remember?
No.
It's the 5 of hearts. And there it is, the 5 of hearts, the last card on the table. And that's the 16 card trick. I hope you like it. Welcome back. You guys ready to do some more?
Yep.
Cool. Do you guys know what ESP is?
No.
Well, ESP stands for extrasensory perception. It's sometimes referred to as the 6th sense. I'm going to see if you have any powers of ESP. And we're going to do it by using this deck of cards. Andy, I'm going to have you point to a card, but I want you to concentrate, because I want you to point to the 6 of spades. Now, in order to do this, you're going to need some powers of ESP, because obviously you can't see the faces of the cards. So move your hand over the deck slowly. If you feel any sensation at all, stop. And hopefully we'll be at the 6 of spades. Now, Jocelyn, you have to remember the names of the cards. What's the name of this one?
6 of spades.
6 of spades. Very good. Andy, we're going to continue. I want you, again, to wave your hand over the deck. Only this time, I'd like you to stop at the 3 of hearts. Move slowly. If you get any sensation at all, stop. And hopefully this one will be the 3. Do you feel anything? What's the matter? You're not feeling well? Are you sure? Okay. Now, Jocelyn, do you remember the name of the 2 cards I'm supposed to have now?
6 of spades and 3 of hearts.
Very good. I'm going to attempt to locate a card. I'm going to see if I can locate the 8 of spades by just waving my hand over the deck without looking. And we'll see if I have any power of ESP. Wait a minute. I really am feeling something. Oh well. Wouldn't that be something if this happened to have worked? Jasmine, what were the 3 cards?
6 of spades.
Wait a second. Look at that, Andy. The 6 of spades. What else?
3 of hearts.
The three of hearts. Andy, there it is, the three of hearts. And Jasmine, what was the last card?
Ace of spades.
Isn't that astounding? All three cards located through the powers of ESP. Would you like me to teach you that trick? Stick around. Would you like to learn, Andy?
Yes.
It's a good trick, isn't it? We'll be right back. And now for the explanation. Do you have any idea how that trick is done, Andy? No? Jasmine, do you?
No.
It's easy. Let me show you how. The only thing you need to know in order to do this trick is what card is on the bottom. Now, Andy, what's the name of this card?
Two of clubs.
Good. Now, that's the card that we're going to begin with. It goes on the bottom of the deck to begin, or to start, and we spread them out. I then go into this story about ESP, and I claim we're going to test if you have the ability to find a card by using the powers of ESP. Now, I ask you to wave your hand over the deck and stop at a card. Can you guess what card I'm going to ask you to stop at? What's the name of the card on the bottom?
The two of clubs.
Two of clubs. Now, since I know the two of clubs is on the bottom, that's the card we start with. I say, Andy, wave your hand over the deck, and I want you to try to stop at the two of clubs. Now, you know it's at the bottom now, but let's say you didn't know, and just point to any card at all, because it really doesn't matter. Would you do that for me? Just point to a card this time. Okay. Now, we know it's not the two. But I pick it up and look at it, and I find that it's the Jack of Spades. I then say, Andy, point to another card, and let's see if you can point to the Jack of Spades. Go right ahead. Now, we know it's not the Jack. The Jack is in my hand. So whatever card is pointed to, I pick that up, and I take a look at that card. I then say that I'm going to point to a card, and it's going to be the Nine of Hearts, because that was the second card you pointed to. Now, do you have any idea what card I'm really going to pick up?
Two of clubs.
Andy, you're paying attention. Good for you. And you're right. See, now I'm going to pick up the two of clubs. Now, I don't want to make it obvious. If I run right for the bottom card and pick it up, people will be suspicious. So I move the cards around a little bit, and I talk, and I just keep moving them until I can pick up the bottom card without making it obvious. Now, they're not in the correct order, although you did pick up the three cards you said you would. So I asked the spectator to call out the three cards, and when they do, I can show them that I was able to locate the three cards that were asked for. The Jack of Spades, the Nine of Hearts, and the Two of Clubs. And that's how to do that trick. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Cool. Andy, do you understand that?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Stick around. We're going to do some more in just a minute. It's called the Joker's Wild. Andy, I'm holding three cards in my hand. What's the name of the first card?
Seven of hearts.
Cool. What's the name of the second card?
Jack of clubs.
And what's the name of the third card?
Nine of hearts.
Yeah. It's easy to find the Jack. It's in the middle and it's a different color. You think you could find it if I turn them over? Let's find out. I'm going to take these three cards and place them onto the table one at a time. 1, 2, and 3. Andy, you were paying attention, weren't you? Which one was the Jack? Now, wait a minute. You don't think it was this card? No. You don't think it was this card? So you believe it's the card in the middle. Well, Andy, I'm a magician. And all I need to do is snap my finger, and the Jack has vanished. As a matter of fact, believe it or not, it has now turned into a joker. Andy, would you like to learn that trick?
Yes.
All right. Stick around. I'll be glad to teach you. Joker's Wild. You are going to need a few extra cards. The first one is a jack, which has been cut on a diagonal to look like this. Do you see how that's cut, Andy? Yeah. Not too difficult to do. Just exactly. And you'll also need a second card that can be glued to the back, in this case, of the 7. And that creates a little compartment where we hide the jack. Do you see how I place that in between those two cards there, Andy? Okay. Now, you're going to take the joker and place it behind the jack, like this, and then take the last card and place it behind those two. You ask the spectator to name the 3 cards being used and tell them to pay special attention to the jack. When you close up the cards, the jack gets pushed in between the cards that are glued together. You then turn them over, put them down one at a time, and ask the spectator to point to the one he believes is the jack. Now, if they were paying attention, they'll point to the middle. But it really doesn't matter because none of them is the jack. Hold them up one at a time, showing first that this card is not the jack, that this card is not the jack. As a matter of fact, this is the gimmick. The jack is hidden inside of here. And then when you turn over the last card, they're in for a surprise because the jack has now mysteriously turned into a joker. That's not too hard, is it, Andy? Now, I hope you enjoy it. Stay tuned. We'll show you one more great trick. The trick I'm going to show you now is what I like to refer to as a wolf in sheep's clothing. It's a trick that everybody knows, but I've disguised it in such a way that you won't recognize it. Would you like to help me?
Yeah.
Great. I'm going to have you select a card, but I want you to do it in a way that it would be impossible for me to know what it is or where it is in the deck. So in a moment, I'm going to turn around, and I'm going to ask you to cut the deck to any card at all, and that will be the card we'll be using, okay? Now, after you do that, wait for my further instructions, and I'll tell you what to do. Let me turn around and let you get started. Please pick up part of the deck and cut to a card. Have you done that? Now, remember what that card is. So that we really lose the card into the deck, I'd like you to give the cards in your hand one complete cut. Can you do that? Excellent. Have you done it? Now, once again, so that the card is thoroughly lost, place the cards in your hand in the middle of the cards on the table. All set? Excellent. Are the cards straightened out? I don't want to have any idea where that card is. Do you think there's any possible way I could know the card you chose?
No.
And I couldn't possibly know where it is. My back was to you the whole time. You cut the cards numerous times. There's no way I could know where or what the card is. But you're going to tell me, and you're going to tell me without knowing it. I'm going to spread the cards out. Would you put out your hand for a moment, dear? You see, if I were to hold your wrist and move your hand back and forth, I could actually feel your reactions. It's almost like a lie detector test. You're going to give it away. You're going to tell me what your card is. I want you to keep thinking about it. See, I'm getting a reaction. I can feel that we're getting closer. Wait a second. Wait a minute. It's getting stronger. Oh my goodness. This is incredible. You're actually pulling me to the 2 of clubs. Was that the card?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, the 2 of clubs. Would you like me to teach you that?
Yes.
That's a great trick, isn't it? Stick around. I'll show everyone how it's done. Explanation for this trick is very, very simple. And it's probably the first card trick that you ever learned or that anybody ever learned. It's based on a principle called the key card. What that means is you know the whereabouts of a particular card. You have a card selected, placed back in the deck next to that card. Let me show you how this is applied in a more practical way. Now, for this trick, I happen to know the name of the top card in the deck. Now, we're going to use the 2 of spades this time. This is my key card. That is on the top of the deck. Now, let's go through the motions the way we just did when I performed the trick. I asked you to give the deck a cut. Would you do that for me now, please? And remember the card that you cut to. What is it this time?
It's the Jack of Hearts.
Good. Would you let the camera see it? Now, I then said, give the cards in your hand a complete cut. Now, I said I was doing this so that we'd lose the card further into the deck. But where did it actually end up? On top of what card?
I have no idea.
Well, do you remember what the key card was for this trick?
The 2 of spades.
Spades. So you selected the Jack of Hearts. Because when you cut the card one time, you were taking your selection and placing it on top of my key card, which happens now to be the 2 of spades. Do you see how that works? Now, in order to confuse you further, I then said, place these cards into the middle of the cards on the table. For my purposes, that didn't disturb the order at all. Your card is still next to the 2 of spades. When I turned around, I spread out the cards, and I looked for the 2 of spades. Because I knew the card immediately to the left would be the card that you chose. The rest was just a little bit of acting. I held your hand and I said, if I can actually feel your reaction. See, you're actually telling me where the card is. Now you didn't, I knew where it was all along, but I played it up. Did you like that trick?
Yeah.
Think you can do it?
Yeah.
What about you, Andy?
Yeah.
Oh, I hope so. Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the tricks that I taught you. That's all for now. I really hope you enjoyed the material that was on this tape. Remember, practice, 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 and enjoy performing these tricks. Thanks for watching. Goodbye for now.